My name is Tiana Vujošević. I'm the chair of architecture.
My name is
And
Daniel Röhr. I'm the chair of landscape architecture.
before we begin, I would like to note that this presentation is taking place on the unceded traditional lands of the Musqueam people, and that we are grateful for their hospitality and have a commitment to the struggle for decolonization and returning land that has been appropriated for the indigenous people in our area. I will talk, and Daniel will help me about several important beliefs we have in our school and several important strengths of our program. The three pillars of the first pillar of our school is that we design for equity and justice, that we are committed to a diverse community, to ensuring that in our designs we think about equal access to resources, equal access to land, equal access to housing, and we believe that as designers we have the power to change the world for the better.
I think this is also reflected in the school UBC and SALA. Half of the professors here at SALA are like myself, international, and Tiana as well. So there's a strong international community here, also in our student body, and we are very eager to invite people from all over the world to join our program. We are very open to this because we think a multicultural education is very important in architecture and landscape architecture today.
Another pillar of our program is that we design for climate change. And in addition to initiatives which had to do with equal access to housing and finding housing justice to Canada, which I mentioned earlier, we are engaged in active struggle for using design to mitigate the effects of climate change. Many of our studios are devoted to timber construction. Our faculty are engaged in designing net zero buildings, and even some of our facilities, such as Third Space, are built with that in mind.
And it is also important, BC is a very sensitive environment, the province of British Columbia. And it's a perfect place to actually see, sadly, how climate change is really having an impact, not just on the environment, but also on society here in BC. So it's a really good place to experiment and explore and teach the fields of architecture and landscape architecture and urban design. So we believe one of the strengths of coming to SALA is the environment around us, which is excellent for projects and sites to actually being explored and designed.
And finally, the third pillar of our school is breadth and dexterity. We do not train students to excel in one area or another, in one type of project or another. Because the world always changes, what we teach students is the ability to respond to change in a flexible and innovative manner. So we do not educate students just for the problems of today. We educate them also to be able to respond to the problems that might arise in the future, which involves facility with design on a small scale, on a large scale, and this mental agility to adapt to challenges that history and transformations in the natural environment bring us.
Yeah, and then a note to add, because of the multicultural background of our school, we are very encouraging and open to different thoughts in the design process. And one of the major parts of coming to UBC is we are not just trying to educate doers, we are trying to educate thinkers. And developers and idea thinkers. So I think it's a really important point to raise that we are interested to invite people to study at UBC who are raising the bar in design, and that not just for British Columbia and Canada, but internationally. And that's why our thinking in the pedagogy of the school is also to raise the bar in international education. So we are looking at multiple countries globally because architecture and landscape architecture are global issues which have to be addressed.
Collaboration and learning is one of our collaborative learning is one of our pillars. Our students in design build and in various experimental projects work together in teams to design and to build, and also we collaborate with our communities as well.
I get often asked because we are known for a lot of international programs. We have a lot of summer programs to go abroad. That is very true. We have always every year some courses which go abroad, mostly in summer. Sometimes also a whole studio. That is the fame of our school that we take people abroad. But recently, we also thought it is very important because many students come from abroad that we show them British Columbia and maybe do also more local summer programs. So this is something we are thinking to push further also for people who may don't want to go abroad or don't have the financial means. So we are expanding this from the international to also do local summer programs.
Um, Among our strengths is the strength of our faculty. Uh,
Yeah, I keep this short for Tiana. If you want to know about the faculty, please go online on the website. There you can read about each person specifically and what they are doing. But one of the strengths of the faculty is that we are from all over the world. We are not just from Canada, we're from Europe, we are from North America, obviously South America, and also from Asia, which is important that the faculty is multiculturally trained and educated to give a broader accessibility for our students.
One of our strengths is our location on the Pacific Rim in the dynamic environment of Vancouver, which is on the land of coastal Salish people, which is has breathtaking nature, as you probably know about Vancouver, but which is also like a very busy international port, international economic hub. So this combination between nature and the and this philosophy and attachment of the land, which comes to the art with tradition, and like very, very busy economic activity, and the contradictions that arise from it is what you might find challenging and exciting in Vancouver. One of the specific characteristics of our program is the graduate project, which comes in last year, where you have a year to do your own research on what you find important in architecture to make your statement, and it's a diploma project that does not exist in other schools.
Yeah, I would like to just add that in this project you have an advisor who will guide you through these projects, but they are individually run. And that is due to the fact this is a master course, a professional master course program where you are required to do an individual project at the end. And we call this graduate project, not thesis. It's a graduate project which has a small written component and a large design component.
So we have professional offer different programs. The two professional programs that lead to licensure are Master of Architecture and Master of Landscape Architecture, and we also offer a research degree, which is Master of Advanced Studies in architecture.
And landscape
Yeah.
architecture as well.
So I will talk a little bit about the Master of Architecture trajectory. There are 3 years and summer. You are in every semester you take a design studio, and studios get more complex and complex, as well as courses in architectural technology, design media, and architectural history. During the summer, we also offer courses in communicating construction and contemporary practice, which bring you closer to what you will be doing when in your first year on the job. So these are examples of the courses that you get in year 1 of the architecture program. In year 2, you see that every semester you have technical subjects, history subjects, and then, of course, design studio, which is the main thing in your program. And in the final year, you'll see that you have graduate project part 1 and graduate project part 2. This is this independent piece of work that you will be doing.
Same thing in landscape architecture. Hold on. Same thing basically as in, I don't know how to go back, but oops. I'll let you do that. Yeah, same thing in landscape architecture, same structure. As you can see, the program is structured in a similar way. And every year you have certain core courses and you can take electives, but there's certain courses you have to take for the accreditation board of the Canadian Society of Landscape Architects, and there are courses you can select yourself. It's a master course program, and we are very flexible what kind of courses you want to take, and they can be all over campus, not just in architectural landscape architecture. And the same for year 2 and 3, you do a graduate project, as you have heard.
My name is Justine. I'm in my 3rd and final year of the Masters of Architecture program at SALA, and I'm the president of ARCUS, which stands for the Architecture Union of Students at SALA. So I just wanted to speak a little bit about my experience at the school and what being a master's student in architecture is like. So just a little bit of background on myself. I grew up in Vancouver, and then I ended up moving out to Toronto for my undergrad, where I studied architecture at the University of Toronto for 4 years. And then I graduated in 2022 and worked for a year in between my undergrad and my master's at an architecture firm that mostly focused on commercial projects and multi-unit residential housing. So after working for a year, I found myself in the Masters of Architecture program at SALA. So I just wanted to talk a little bit about some of the things you'll encounter in this program. First of all, the people. You'll become quite close with your cohort as you spend a lot of time working in the same space, which is the studio. And you truly never feel alone here. There'll be times when you don't know some things, but your classmates will be your greatest support. Everybody is learning, and everyone's coming into this program from a different background. There's some people in the program that come from computer science, engineering, nursing. So there's just a wide variety of backgrounds. Not everybody's coming from an architectural background. And you'll also find yourself helping others, which will make you a better student as well. That first photo was the ARCUS team. So we're the group that helps facilitate a lot of the events at the school, and we act as representatives for the student body. And then I'll just go over a little bit about what it's like in the actual Frederick Lasserre building, which is where you'll spend most of your time. This is where you'll take your classes and where studio is. Usually take 4 classes per term. So that's 3 that are lecture-based and 1 that's a studio class. If you don't come from an architectural background, a studio is a smaller class with around 12 students per studio. And this is where a bulk of your work is going to be happening. Each studio will have a different topic. For example, I took one that was urban design, where we were tasked to redesign the Native Education College in Mount Pleasant. Um, and so in this project, we were looking to add more classrooms, exercise, and living spaces. So that's just an example of one studio. And you'll work very closely with your professor in this class. Um, and yeah, the top middle photo is Ray's Bar, which is sort of our lounge space in the studio. And that's where we sort of gather and have more casual conversations. And that's where a lot of our events happen. Um, I truly can't put into words how special this program and these people are. And I've cherished every moment here. So I hope you guys get the opportunity to experience a master's program at this school. And I wish you all the best of luck. So thank you.
All right, I think
Direct
this
with
is my
Alex.
part.
Yeah.
Hi, everyone. My name is Tarek. I am a current enroller in the co-op program that SALA offers. So I'm a MARC student that completed my first 2 years. And then I decided to take a year to kind of get some first-hand experience. And I was fortunate enough to be hired by HDR here in Vancouver. Yeah, I really appreciate the fact that SALA offers a co-op program. It's not too dissimilar to other co-op programs you might have seen, but it's unique in the sense that it's on top of the course load that you would then be expected to do in 3 years. So I will be returning in September of 2026 and then finishing my last year, which I really look forward to. Yeah, the co-op program has been, I started in September, and I think I'm about to conclude my third month, and it's been quite an amazing experience, to be honest with you. I've learned so much outside of school, but also I feel like SALA has prepped me pretty well to kind of go into an environment where I pretty much didn't know any of the basics. Or not the basics, right? I had the basics, but I didn't know any of the large nuances that goes into a firm like HDR, but also the kind of work that we do here. But thankfully, the last 2 years have prepped me really well. Especially comprehensive studio, which you do in your second semester or second year, gives you a really good taste of what it's like to kind of see the different phases of a building. And of course, it's a lot more complicated than that in real life, which I'm learning. But yeah, at HDR, we do, I can't really show you some of the drawings that I've worked on, but I can show you the physical model that we're kind of building. This is for an engagement. So we are expecting to have a client come in, and I've had the privilege of basically creating a model to kind of give them a sense of the site. It's still very much work in progress. And so like you really do get to see some of the things you do at studio at SALA translate into the work environment. And we do a lot of like iterating as we do in studio, but in very different ways. And you really get to see a lot of voices kind of that you wouldn't expect kind of influence the project, which is something really cool because when you're in school, it's pretty much your peers and your instructors, but you actually kind of informing your design and kind of your desires and that kind of thing. But hearing people from different backgrounds, both professional and as clients, kind of inform your design firsthand is really terrific. I think as a designer, and especially to come back from my last year of school, I will know that by the time I graduate, I would have really immersed myself in what SALA has to offer. As a SALA student, I've actually had the opportunity to also serve on ARCAS for 2 years as first and second year up. So there really is so many amazing student experiences, and I still attend as many good times as I could, like the events that we host every Friday. So there really is ample opportunity to remain engaged in the student life as a co-op student, and I highly recommend everyone to explore this option if you do end up joining us next year. Thank you.
Tara, can you just say a couple of words about what co-op is?
Right. So the co-op program, basically, it's you work for a year or 8 months. And then within those 8 months, you get 6 credits recognized by the university. But also you get the opportunity to register with AIBC and have some of your hours recognized for licensure later on. There are a lot of, I'm still working on getting my hours recognized and getting myself familiar with that process. But in essence, you also get a mentor and you get the opportunity to basically experience different aspects of design of the architectural process and have those hours be counted later on. And so the co-op program, as much as it's not just working, it is very educational. You are going to be given a variety of work as ensured by the school and of course the accreditors to make sure that in the co-op program you get a rich, diverse set of experiences and you don't just work on the same thing.
Thanks so much.
Now we have 2 study abroad programs to be presented. First one by Hannah, I think.
Hi, everyone. My name's Hannah. I'm in my 3rd and final year of the Masters of Landscape Architecture program at UBC. And I was lucky enough to go on the Sardinia study abroad trip, which happened this past May. And it was a landscape-focused study abroad that happened on the island of Sardinia, which is just off of mainland Italy. The island has a really unique geology, which has resulted in place-specific agricultural, material practices, and other seasonal land-based activities. So the study abroad consisted of daily excursions over the course of 21 days, and they were all kind of interested in these ideas and questions of how one forms a personal and collective relationship to place through landscape, and how knowledge of a place is gained through embodied experiences with specific ecologies, movements, and time. So the first half of the course, the photos you kind of just saw before were mostly us traveling around a bit. We visited national parks, museums, and other sites related to Sardinia's cultural and environmental histories. And the second half of the study abroad, we were hosted in a small town called Semestene. It's one of the smallest villages in the Sardinian countryside. And here we engaged in land-based practices through excursions that focused on harvesting and planting, dry stone building, and shared cooking and eating. And throughout our time here, each student kept a sketchbook and journal, which is what you see on the left, and then also created their own personal practice, which was a unique project that was rooted in their own experience of the Sardinian landscape and these questions of how one comes to know a place. So those really ranged between people, but they could look like anything from learning traditional basket weaving with local materials, natural dyeing with harvested plants of Sardinian wool, local trail maintenance for the community, or drawing-based inquiries into place and time. Yeah, it was a really great experience to have such a landscape-focused study abroad, and I'm happy to answer questions, but it was a great experience, and I highly recommend it.
Thank you so much.
Diego, it's your turn.
Hi, my name is Diego. I'm also a 3rd-year MLA student, and I had the opportunity to do the design build program, which was offered this past summer and spring. So design build is a elective that is run usually on an annual basis, and this year it was a landscape-focused project. So the way that design builds work is that you spend an entire term designing the project and working with the client, which in this case was Keats Camp on Keats Island, located in the Howe Sound. And it's kind of run like a studio where you go through design iterations and you talk with the client to kind of land on a final design. And that's run as in second term usually before the summer term. And then the the build portion, sorry, happens in the summer. So in our case, we spent 6 weeks living on Keats Island on site, and we built the project. So it is very true to the title, design build. So like I was saying, the design portion is a lot of iteration, a lot of um, talking with your client and working through different ideas. But it's also goes beyond that because in studios, while it's very often design focused and in comprehensive studios, it's very technical. This takes it one step further because we really have to account with real world constraints of budget, materials, timing, logistics. So it was a really rich educational experience for learning how a kind of project actually rolls out in these different phases. Um, Once on the island, the build portion is actually not as straightforward as it seems. You know, there's a lot of site-specific things that happen, a lot of decisions that are made on site, and it's a lot of physical work. It really is. But it's all really rewarding because at the end of the day, you're building something that is tangible, which is a really special opportunity in this program. So not only are you kind of learning how to build something, but you also get to walk away with all of this knowledge and with, like, frankly, something that looks really, really great on a portfolio and is something that you're going to hold on to for a really long time. And it's also a great way to kind of build, to kind of foster those relationships with your colleagues. You know, living on an island with a group of people for 6 weeks, you really get to know everybody. But that's kind of one of the really great parts about this program is that everybody's so close knit and everybody's so kind and welcoming that it's really a place where you can feel comfortable and get to meet a lot of people and do amazing things while doing that. Um, so yeah, it's kind of, and it's also just to kind of like top off, it's a really good elective as well. You get 6 credits for the build portion and 3 for the design portion. So it's also very good if you're trying to do get credits for electives and whatnot. I'm also happy to answer more questions, but yeah, I would highly recommend applying to the design build if you get the chance, and if you decide to enroll with us at UBC. Thank you.
Diego, thank you very much. Could you just elaborate on the one other thing which is so important for students to know? You did that direct research study with me. Could you just say 2, 3 sentences about that with the experience to going to a conference and publishing a peer-reviewed paper? I think that would be really helpful for the audience.
Of course, yeah. So directed studies is essentially a kind of self-directed course that you can kind of work under the supervision of a professor at the university, and it's kind of focused on research on a topic that you're interested in, be it whether you're in the architecture program or the landscape architecture program. And it's a really good way to dive into specific topics that might not be covered by the courses that are offered, or simply you want to take that research farther or provide something new. So it's a really good opportunity to kind of, yeah, research. And in some cases, you might be able to share that work through publishing a paper or the publishing of an online blog, a toolkit, and you will also receive credits for that, be it 3 credits or 6 credits, depending on the length. But yeah, it's a great opportunity. If there's something that you really want to hone in on within the program, just talk to a faculty member and they can help you.
Thank you. Thank you, Diego.
Thank you.
Thank you. So we always get questions about how to prepare your portfolio. This happens in every open house. So we invited one of our students with the highest standing, Ruji, to tell you a little bit about how she prepared her portfolio and how she approached this process of SALA admissions.
Hi everyone, my name is Ruji, and I'm currently in my second year of the MArch program. It's a pleasure to share a glimpse of the portfolio that I used when I applied to this program. Today I'll focus on one project from that portfolio because it captures both my interest in contemporary housing density and one of my personal passion in architecture. As you can see on screen, this project is called Qi Enhancement Feng Shui Structure Study. I completed it in 2021 as a second-year undergrad at the U of T Daniels faculty, and it's a studio project taught by Professor Rizanik. And the site is in North York, Toronto. It's often called the Yellow Belt, a huge band of low-density detached housing that's under significant pressure to density. So I was interested in the question of how can we double or even triple the population in this neighborhoods without simply dropping in generic mid-rise blocks, and while still respecting the existing residents' sense of home and place. And to investigate that, I focus on the cul-de-sac as a typology. I grew up in much denser urban environment where cul-de-sacs are real. So I was fascinated to see how they trap or redirect qi or eventually energy in feng shui terms. And to unpack that, as you can see on the second slides, I was showing a series of drawings, site analysis of the yellow belt area, as well as where I choose to unpacked the housing typology with a series of drawings. On the third columns, you'll see a series of operation that I approach while directing me to the final form of the project. In general, it took me about 1 month in total to organize all of my works and finalizing the style of the projects. It is a really great opportunity to take that time to think about what do you want to learn and achieve in the master programs. And as I revisit my drawings, I try to unify all the graphics and word in a way that shows my personality and my passions. And this project is one of my favorite projects that I invested a lot of time and energy to really share what I've been interested in architecture. And yeah, if you have any questions for me later, I'll be happy to answer.
So it's important to say that Ruji also has extensive experience as a graduate teaching assistant, as do many of our student guests. So if you have any questions about that aspect of the program, I think they can provide very competent answers. So I'll stop sharing with that, and we are going to start answering your questions in person. Many of them have been answered by Tara and Janus in chat through the Q&A function. But let's hear. Do you have any more questions for us?
Tiana, I actually have left a couple in the Q&A that I thought you guys could
Okay.
address. Yeah, so if you just
Okay.
have a look, they say there that you'll answer them live. They should be at the top of the queue. I can read the first question.
Yeah, we can read them.
Okay.
We can read them,
Yeah.
but there are lots of them. Let me just see if this is the top one. Okay.
Yeah, there's 7 who
Okay. So I just read it and then we can answer it. I have a bachelor's in illustration from Emily Carr, and I'm worried that because I do not have an architecture background, I have a portfolio with drawings, graphic design, and some fiber art, but have done no digital 3D modeling or modeling buildings. Do you think that I still have a shot? I let you start, and I have something to say as well.
You absolutely have a shot. We do not look into to seeing accomplished design works in these portfolios, especially if you don't have a degree in architectural design or architectural studies of some sort. What you have to demonstrate in your portfolio with your background are 2 things. One thing, that you have an approach to thinking about space and representing space. In this respect, for example, hand sketches of streets and cities and buildings would be something that's very valuable, having in mind that many of those students with an architectural background don't know how to make a hand drawing. So if you can do that, and if you can demonstrate that, that's great. Also, we want to see your process, how you develop your design. So even if it's not an architectural design, and you can demonstrate stages of how you go from an initial idea to a final project and how you do this in a creative and disciplined manner, that will also be very valuable. Things that you should steer away from is photography. It totally does not demonstrate that you know how to analyze space to the degree that you need for an architectural program. AI generated images also, because you can't show the process behind your work. So would be two pieces of advice for you. Show that how you represent space, how you analyze space, and show us your thinking process.
I have only one thing to add. I've looked at thousands of these portfolios. We are not a writing degree, we are a drawing degree. So the ability to use drawing as an international language of spatial communication is the key of success. And you can come from any degree. We've had people not from an arts or design degree background who entered this program. So try it, but the effort obviously counts. And as you've heard from one of the students talking, how much time it takes to prep, that is important. Look at the school, look at the faculty who teaches there. What is their specialty? Understand what's the strength of the school wanting to go to. So I think those aspects are really important, which should be reflected in your portfolio. And hand drawing, absolutely process all the things Tiana mentioned. But I also think if you do put a photography in, it should be analytical. You need to maybe draw on it or do something with it, not just click the photo, but actually that the photo explains that you are seeing the world three-dimensional or something. So I think whatever you do is everything with intention. And finally, only put the work in you're really, really, really proud. Don't put anything in just because you just think that is something which is required. Only show the work you think is your best and most compelling work. Second question, what would be ways to strengthen my application, or are there any resources I can access to help with that?
We do have a very good resource on YouTube, and Tara just posted it. I think that's what she posted in the chat. So you could go to the chat and click the link there. It's quite good, and it's quite long, so get yourself a snack, and I think it's more than an hour, but very informative.
Perfect. That saves us answering anymore. So we go to the third question. If we apply for AP, Advanced Placement Program, that means, and are not selected, would we be considered for the regular 3-year program?
So I wanted to answer that one also, if that's all right with you guys.
Yes, please. Jesus, fire away.
So basically what happens is for the Master of Architecture, in the application, there's going to be a box and it says, would you like to be considered for AP? You click yes or no. And then we use that as a guide when we're doing admissions. The admissions committee ultimately determines who's AP or not, but we use your answer as a guide. So you can more think of it as you're just applying to the Master of Architecture and you're giving us that you think you are AP, and then we will make the final decision, and then you would be informed in your offer of admission. I think that's the best way I can explain it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that's great. The next question, it says you will answer that live as well. How much does the MArch curriculum overlap with the MLA program? How often do students from either programs collaborate together in studios? I'm also curious how the studio space is set up. It looks like students get their own dedicated desk space to work.
Yeah, I was hoping you guys would take that.
I'm happy to. We are happy to answer that.
Go ahead.
I start. Yes, we do have overlaps. There are many courses we teach together. There are options mostly in third year to do an option studio where you can do an option studio with a landscape professor or vice versa. We shuffle every semester the student spaces, and every student has their or his own desk. So that's crystal clear, of course, but it rotates so that we have lots of different spaces on campus. So there's a lot of walking involved, which is very healthy between the different courses and studios. So, but you always have a desk where you can go to and where your professor will then meet with you.
We are situated now on the third floor of the La Serre building, where the biggest studio is. This means it's like a huge, huge room with desks, and each student in the MArch program has their own desk where they do their work, but are surrounded by all other students, which is great for collaboration, asking questions, getting help. And on the same floor where you have your own desk is our famous raised bar, a bar where people have lunch and party on Friday nights. So it is like an integrated live work space where you have everything you need to set up your own kind of a design hub, but are also surrounded by everybody else in your program.
So that sounds good. Next question. What are some of the most repeated mistakes in portfolios and the applications as a whole? We can answer. You start some, and I have some as well.
Not showing process, doing things that do not demonstrate that you have any kind of a design process. Sharing everything you ever did without having a criterion on what's good and what's bad. This is supposed to be a selection of your work. And yeah.
I have one, follow the instructions carefully. If it says 10 slides, not 11 and not 9. If it says have a statement which you have to do, and it says 1 page, don't do it 1.5 pages. But the statement should also be current and should really not, I wanted to be an architect since I was a child. That's not an answer. We want clear understand of why you want to be an architect, why you want to be a landscape architect, what inspires you to do this field. It is really crucial to us to see how much you really want to come to SALA, our school, in comparison to another school. So really understand the websites, read up about the programs, understand them thoroughly before you prepare your statements. And finally, your external reviewers are crucial. 2 should be highest ranking professors you can find. Best tenured, full professors, associate professors, assistant professors. The more the merrier. At least 2 are required.
I would just also encourage you not to think about mistakes, which you will make.
Exactly.
It doesn't matter whether you make a mistake or not. You should just show us your enthusiasm and curiosity and passion for thinking about space and thinking about the design, and making bigger or smaller mistakes. Just like forget thinking about mistakes. We don't need everything to be, completely sleek and completely perfect. It's just about you showing us that you want to study architecture and that you're capable of it in one way or another.
Next question. Which software do MArch students typically use for design and presentation? Does UBC provide student discounts or offer free software for their students? Also, is 3D printing and model making part of their curriculum, i.e. Rhino, SketchUp, Revit, Vectorworks, Maya, Adobe, etc.? I would actually say in MArch and MLA, obviously the software is an important part, but it's a skill. It's a technical skill, like learning to the ski or the piano. What is much more important, first of all, that you draw best by hand and show your basic skills of design and drawing and communication. The technical skills of the different computer programs are expected that you learn them over the time you're here. It's much better you know them to get employed. However, you could also hand draw your portfolio. So at the time to get into the program, those skills are not necessary. What is necessary, as if we've described before, is that you show us design process and creative design. However, of course, there's certain programs which have student versions, and gradually over the 3 years you will learn programs. But even in the time when you are here now with AI out, we will have the programs are constantly changing. So it's really more the principles, how these programs are used, we will teach you, and then you have to adapt accordingly to the current changes of those apps. But there are different tools you are required to know for the programs, and you will get to know and hear about them when you are allowed into the programs.
Yeah.
Next question. Is it okay to put professional work into your portfolio?
Yes, if you can attribute it. So when you work in an office, usually you're not the sole author of a project. There's a group of people working on it. So if you are putting professional work, which is great, you have to explain exactly what your role in creating that work is. Otherwise, we have absolutely no way to judge your competence without you saying, I did rendering for this project in Rhino, or I went and did the site analysis, or I designed the layout of the apartments. You have to be very specific about what's yours in your professional, in the professional images that you show of your professional work.
One other question. What is the graduation rate? I don't know that. Janus, help.
I'm gonna type that answer. I'm
Okay.
just finding a link. We have a link. Grad Studies has a link where there's stats, so I'm gonna post there.
Okay, thank you very much, Janus.
It rarely happens that people drop out of the program.
What is expected of the statement of intent? What should be included or speaking to? We already talked about that question, so it's recorded already.
Yes.
Is there any other questions, maybe for the students? They are here. You may want to ask them some questions. We wait a bit.
Sorry, I would have a second question about the GPA from your previous schools, like how much it weighs in the overall application.
That's also a Janus and Tara question, I think, at this moment.
Sorry, I'm still looking for that link, so I'm just working on that.
Yeah, I mean, I could. Which program is it that you're interested in? I don't remember who asked the question. It looks like there's a question come into the Q&A though for the students.
We will do that. For the students, what does a day-to-day look like for you? What is the workload like? This is cool. This is for the students. So any of you students, please answer this day-to-day. What is it like? Who wants to answer that?
I can speak to my experience day to day. Typically, you would have maybe 1 to 3 classes per day. Studios usually your longest class, which typically runs from around like 1:30 to 5:30. So usually you'll start your day with a lecture-based class. You'll have a break in between, and then you'll have studios twice a week usually. And after that, you'll kind of, during studio, you'll meet with your prof and you'll kind of talk through your project. They'll give you feedback and try to guide you a bit. And that's where you do a bulk of your drawing work, like on your computers or hand drawing or your model work. So a lot of people work at their desk, but we also have the workshop in the basement as well as the assembly room. So you can also build models there. And then after studio, I typically do a couple of hours of work, either stay in the studio or I'll go home and do some work. So that's usually my day to day. And some days are busier than others. Some days you'll have less classes and some days you'll have more. So yeah, it's different every day and for every person.
Yeah, I'll also add that like each semester has a different flow. So I would say like your intro studio is definitely like you start right away, and so you have to accept that like there's a level of commitment of hours that you have to give your master's program, and I think the more you put into it, the more you get out of it. But you'll find that some semesters are more intense than others. I think the peak of your master's is your comprehensive semester, where you have the most challenging studio, which means that you have to be really well organized to be able to balance everything. And it means that you probably will spend almost every day of the semester working on it. Me and my studio partner, because it's a partnered studio, we had a system where we worked like um, 6 days of the week, and then we took one day off, and then we would reduce the weekend to be a half day. But then we would work from like 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. with breaks in between, just so that we make sure that we're on the same page and we work together in studio. So I think it's really about like being communicative, because you do work in partners a lot at SALA, which is really awesome. And yeah, and also having like a balanced life, like work-life balance is really important. You have to schedule your time off. So that's what I recommend students. Yeah.
One landscape student, please.
I'm happy to answer. It's fairly similar to the architecture program as well. So we have our studios, which also typically run from like 1:30 to 5. And yeah, I think I'd agree that there's also definitely a flow between each semester. Like I think first year can be difficult because you're learning so many new things. And kind of like on that note of having to have a design background. I did not come from a design background, so everything was completely new to me. So you're kind of getting your legs when you come in. And second year is there's are the challenging studios and the technical courses. Um, but it's also worth taking a look at kind of the trajectory that is laid out in kind of the course or like the program packages, because it is to a certain degree up to you as well as a student. You can choose to reduce your workload each year a bit and then take more electives in your final year. But that generally isn't recommended because you really want to be focusing on your graduating project. So although it can seem really heavy at times, on your final year, it really tapers down a lot, and you can really focus in on your graduating project. At least that's what I found. And it also depends on if you decide to pick up work, either TAing positions or research assistant positions or work outside of the university. That can also add to your workload. So it's definitely, for me, it was definitely an adjustment to kind of manage my time properly. But once you kind of get a handle on that, it is quite manageable. And there's always, especially in group work, it's always everybody's really understanding of different kind of like lifestyles or working hours or whatnot. So it is manageable for sure.
Diego, a follow-up question from another student, which you can answer very well. For the students, did any of you come to SALA from a non-architectural background? If so, what was the learning curve like? I think you could answer that as well, Diego, please.
Yeah, I can go a bit more into that. For me, yeah. So I came from the geography department at UBC. So no design background whatsoever. Um, and the learning curve is definitely steep. Um, but you learn surprisingly quickly. I think it's really just about practice. And although it can seem sort of, yeah, I don't know, you feel like you don't know anything, but by the end of your first year, you're going to look back at your work from the beginning of that year, and you're going to realize how far you've come. It really is just a matter of kind of practicing, and it's also a matter of um, trying over and over. Like I feel like sometimes it can be kind of defeating to not have something turn out the way that you want it to, but that's just part of the process, right? It's just remembering that nothing is ever going to be perfect. No design is ever going to be perfect or ever going to be the final product could always be improved in one way or another. So it's honestly also learning about when to stop and be happy with what you've learned. But yeah, it feels steep, but I feel like you get used to it, and next thing you know, you're pretty fluent in a lot of different design methods. So.
I can jump in on that as well for a minute. I also don't come from a design background from my undergrad. I studied environmental studies and film studies. So I definitely agree with you. It was a very steep learning curve, and you are expected to do like a lot of the learning on your own time as well. But putting that in, yeah, I agree. It's really surprising how fast you pick it up, and looking back, how like impressive it is, how much you learn. But I will also say that my experience in landscape is that it's quite a mixed bag of different backgrounds, and really just asking questions and relying on your cohort members. It's been a really nice experience to share knowledge, and no matter what background you come from, you are also going to bring that to the other folks who are in your program as well. So there's been a lot of knowledge exchange, which has been really lovely from our cohort, and that's been much appreciated. So yeah, I think that coming from a different background sometimes can even be an asset. Yeah, so I encourage you to apply if that's the case.
There's such a thing called transferable skills. For example, now in the first year, we have a former cardiac surgeon, and he's organizing everybody and giving advice on work-life balance. And I think the entire cohort really appreciates it. So it's that diverse that we have surgeons among our students. But if some people want to know for you guys what you put in your portfolio. Diego, what did you put in your portfolio? I don't have a design background. What should I do?
Sure. If I remember correctly, I in geography we did a lot of cartography. So, for example, I would put in a lot of maps that kind of showed how even though I wasn't designing, I was interacting with space and understanding space and patterns. So I think that was useful. I will admit I did put photography in there. But yeah, take the advice and don't put it in there maybe, or if you are putting it in there, think about how it's speaking to um, how you think essentially, because I think that really is the key is um, it's how yeah, what makes your way of thinking unique? So, yeah, I guess in my case it was kind of maps and some hand drawings. I'd previously taken a course. I had the opportunity to take actually a landscape architecture course with Daniel in my undergraduate degree. So that kind of gave me some content, some hand drawings. Um, but yeah, I think it's the main thing is you can really put anything in there. It's just about that it shows your way of thinking, your way of processing problems, spatially. I think that's really the main takeaway.
Thanks, Diego. That's really good. I have another question to all of you students. Is it doable to do part-time work and be full-time at school? I think this is a question which is often asked, and I would love to hear from architects and landscape architects on that one.
I've had a part-time job since the end of first year. So I work usually twice a week, which is usually about like 10 hours a week of working. And I find that's an okay balance with the schoolwork as well. More than 2 shifts a week is a little bit much. But yeah, it's doable.
Relating to this question, their parents coming to the school, that is another thing. People who have a second shift at home. And we are doing a lot to try to accommodate not only working students, but parents as well, especially mothers of young children. This is like the big reform that we are engaging in right now to encourage diversity of people with different life situations at different stages of life. So it's not only 22-year-olds who have time to do a part-time job, but it's also older people, people who are new parents and bring babies to school. And we are trying to accommodate the entire diversity of life situations that people can be in. It's not something that we have done successfully in the past, but this is the big reform we're working towards as well. In case there are some young parents there.
Any other want to talk about making money on the side?
I have a similar experience to Justine. I had similar questions starting the degree, and I was really recommended to try to not, I know it's like a hard advice to get when you need to earn money, but to not work the first year, especially with the high, like the steep learning curve. And I think in retrospect, it was a lot with the learning curve, and I think it would have been very hard for me to manage working during that first year. But I know people do it, and I think if you can get a TA position, that's a good way to do it. But I have worked since the very end of my first year. Also probably an average of 10 hours a week while I'm in the school year. And since then, I have found it very manageable as long as you're kind of structuring your schedule well and making sure it slots in. For me, I work for a professor in the landscape architecture department, so it's pretty flexible in terms of your hours and when you're working them. So just creating a schedule for yourself to make sure that you fit it in is what I found helpful.
Yeah, I have another question for our MLA students here. For the students in MLA, how do the job opportunities compare to MArch? As I've heard several things, especially how landscape architecture is a more challenging field in terms of career opportunities. I would love to hear from our MLA students. I have my opinion, but you guys fire away. Hannah, why not?
Well, yeah, interesting question. I'm curious to hear Daniel's take on it. I have not worked in a firm setting, but I also think I'm one of the maybe outliers in our program where most people have a lot of intentions to go work in a normal kind of go work at firms. I have like a pretty strong interest in like research or academia or alternative career paths. Last summer I did a like research fellowship with the Canadian Centre for Architecture, which is last year it was a pretty landscape focused project. So I'm kind of been pursuing these kind of slightly alternative jobs while I've been in this degree. So I can't speak as much, I don't think, on the firm positions and how much it is more difficult or less difficult or just as difficult as architecture. But yeah, so I'll let Daniel or Diego speak to that.
I let Diego speak first and then I say something. Diego.
Yeah, so I mean, I also have not worked at a firm. I think I'm also one of the few in our cohort that hasn't. Um, but I think it's hard to say. I'm just starting to try to look for work now, kind of seeing what opportunities are there. The university also has a great I guess it's kind of like an evening where they will host a lot of different firms. They'll come to the university. It's called Firm Connections. And there are a fair bit of landscape architecture firms that will go. Um, and it gives you a chance to kind of talk to the different firms, see what kind of work that they do, and maybe try and stay in contact with them. They may have business cards or whatnot. But I get the sense that firms will often want you to approach them as opposed to posting a job posting on a website. It maybe some of the larger firms do that, but I have kind of based off of what I've heard, it is a lot about making those connections yourself and showing an interest in specific firms and asking to meet them and have them show you around. So it does take a effort on your side. Um, but I wouldn't say I mean I can't say I can't speak to the architecture side of things. Um, but yeah, I think that's kind of the knowledge that I have as of now. I'm sure I'm going to find out more as I try and find a job. But yeah, maybe Daniel has a better answer.
Yeah, I only add this. If you don't want to work in Vancouver, you will find a job tomorrow. I think the big challenge for a lot of MLAs here at our program is they would love to stay in Vancouver, and that is challenging. There's just not enough firms here. However, there is all over the world. I worked all over the world. There is so much work, and there's so many issues we need to address because not just of climate change, but housing situations and many other issues we have, environmental issues and so on. So you will find a job, but maybe not in the city. And what you've heard from the two students, what is really fascinating, apart from doing the traditional architectural, landscape architectural job, what I really appreciate them both reporting on is there's many other areas you can work in. AI, research, Diego in academic research for a colleague over the summer, or Hannah at this research center on the East Coast. So there are many other opportunities because we as educators not just educate you as designers, we are trying to educate you as inventors and thinkers so that you are employable in multiple ways. And with AI coming and things are going to shift dramatically in both professions, and we are gearing up to help with this process as professors as well. Particularly, I do quite a lot of work in this field, developing AI apps as well as researching in it. And we have an AI professor now hired since January focusing on that. So we are really trying to be right up there to help our students to be flexible. And because of the multicultural education we deliver, with multiple languages, there is many ways and many places you can go. And recently, a lot of students actually went a year even abroad to work and came back totally enlightened and mesmerized. So we will do everything we can to help our students. And a lot of us are licensed and are also talking to the local and international community. And over the years, I've helped a lot of students to get jobs anywhere. So it's really important to have those relationships with your professors and your advisors. You have an academic advisor, as every student has one, to then go out and meet them and help you with the jobs. And we are very well connected to the professionals and can do so.
Yes, in general, you get local mentors as well. We have a mentorship program with local architects where you can establish your professional connections. And because our faculty is international, we also have an in, not only in Vancouver, but all around the world. If you decide that you want to move, explore, do things in other contexts, we can help with that too.
There's an interesting question. Yeah. How close are the cohorts? If I get ill, be moving away from home and worry about making friends. Any of you want to answer that one?
I would say that from my experience, the cohorts, you get pretty close with most of the people in your cohort. Obviously, like there's some people you'll mesh better with, but there's a lot of group work. So I would say you get to know your classmates pretty quickly. I remember in the introductory studio, within the first week, I already had made a couple of friends. So everybody's super nice and willing to help each other. So it's a very good environment in the studio.
I have another question here for the students. How did you work on presenting a clear vision of who you are as a student and designer through your portfolio and statement? Lenny.
Maybe I can answer this question because I've actually applied in two segments to Masters of Architecture, once unsuccessfully and once successfully. I think the difference between my two applications was that I lacked as much clarity in the first application with what I wanted to do. I think because I came from an architecture background that I just assumed that if I was interested in what I was already working on and just kind of continuing, then that would be enough to kind of persuade the admissions community. But that wasn't the case because MArch is fairly competitive, and so the second time applying, I took 2 years to kind of build and strengthen my application by doing competitions, but also self-reflecting and building a better ambition for myself in the field. And that instantly like went into my letter of intent. I would say like amongst my peers as well, consistency amongst every aspect of your application. So my resume spoke to my portfolio, which also spoke to my letter of intent. I think that cohesiveness made me more confident even before applying. And I feel like that's why I was more successful doing so as well. Yeah.
Great answer.
That's a really good answer. Thank you so much. I have a really refreshing question for you guys. Questions for current students. What are your favorite part of the campus? Which classes do you most enjoy? Have you ever had to stay overnight at campus? And is there a nearby cafe to keep you alive? I'm sure you can answer that one.
We have our bar and cafe.
We have everything in studio, but I let the students answer because this is such a wonderful question.
Yeah. We're supposed to discourage all-nighters, both as a cohort and from our instructors. But on occasion, it does happen. I will say it happens almost every time you don't predict it happening. It just kind of like you feel the need to do more and more and before a final review. But I will say like there are some people that go about their entire master's degree, don't pull an all-nighter. And the ones that do, myself included, we like to go to a bunch of triple O's closes relatively early, but there's also the international food court, like a 15-20 minute walk away that tends to be open. There's the nest, I think, is open as well. But we actually hang out in studio and bring our own snacks and kind of stay in our little nest at night. And then, Ray's bar tends to be stocked up with tea and coffee. We have a pretty nice home. Like studio isn't just a classroom. Like you really get the chance to personalize it. And I always recommend first years to do so right away. Bring all the things that you feel will make your studio like a second home, a home away from home, basically. So it's really up to you and how much you want to spend time in studio.
Tarek, can you please elaborate on the point that I support 100%, that we are trying to discourage sleeping in studio and pulling all-nighters? Like there's a strong policy against that, despite the fact that you go to the international food court?
It's entirely like, this is 100% my decision every time it happens. And every time we tell the instructors that we did it, they tell us why to do it. Didn't have to, and then they always end up right. I have also avoided all-nighters when I thought I totally could pull one. And I will say every time those extra hours of sleep made the world's difference, I was way more efficient in the morning. So all-nighters are definitely like not as effective as you think they are. Did I answer to your liking?
Yeah, they cause brain damage. I'm 100% against.
So I have we have three more questions here. The first one is, as a landscape architecture major, how has been your co-op experience been? Oh, it's a spelling mistake. How has your co-op experience been? Has any of you done co-op experience? I don't think you two have. So sorry, we can't answer that. I can only answer having advised many, and I've read many reports of the co-op experience. It's always a great thing to do. We do the co-op experience in landscape are a summer long. You get 3 credits for 4 months. If you do the summer, the architecture one is a whole year. You can, however, also do a whole year in landscape. That is also possible, but a lot take the 3 credit summer option. It's an excellent opportunity to work in a firm, and I've very rarely had any negative impacts or negative experiences. Most of them are positive, and everybody gains from those experiences and makes good connections to the profession. So that's that one. And then this one for MArch students, could you talk about having a summer term after the first year and then going straight into a second year? Did you feel like there were enough breaks, support built in to avoid burnout? I let our architecture students speak about that.
I would say that there is somewhat of a break in the summer, although you do have to take courses. It's kind of up to you how you structure it and which summers you want to take them. But I found that typically you're not in class for as long. Most of the classes you can take online, and you're also taking less classes. So you definitely still have time to have a job or travel. There's also the option to go on the study abroad, which is typically, I think, six credits or 9 credits. So that also can count towards some of your requirements for summer courses if you don't want to be doing Zoom classes.
Okay, this is a very clear, concise answer. So we have 2 more questions for the students here. One, what resources or experiences could I begin to explore to know if I'm interested in landscape architecture? Because coming from a fine arts, I feel like I'm clueless about how I will take on such a professional field. This goes to all 4 of you. Also, landscape and architects both can answer that. Why not? Whoever wants to answer.
Well, it's certainly more practical than fine arts a lot of the time, but I think a lot of it carries over. I think I feel pretty similarly. I didn't study fine arts, but a lot of my background and portfolio had been from kind of my work in the arts, or like I've other kind of training in sculpture and have done a lot of ceramics or metalwork. And a lot of that went into my portfolio. So yeah, photography. Um, but I also had a really big interest in ecology, and that's where some of my background academically was. So yeah, landscape architecture seemed like a really great way to kind of merge those interests in the arts and environment and ecology, and in this like real grounded spatial way, and learn technical skills in doing that. Um, so yeah, what ways that you could figure out if that's interesting to you? I would say if you can find some landscape architects that are doing things that you're interested, like just doing research, that was really helpful to me. I was introduced to landscape architecture through just a kind of a couple of different people who were doing interesting work. When I was in my undergrad, I was introduced to Rosetta Elkin, who was someone who inspired me to kind of get into it. So I think there's a lot of different avenues within landscape architecture, people doing a lot of different type of work, and there probably is something that is going to appeal to you within it. So just doing the research to find out what that is, and what kind of work that is great. So whether that's looking into some landscape architecture journals or firms or websites, or reaching out to anybody in the faculty about your interests and seeing if we can provide you with some resources. Yeah, that's what comes to mind right away.
Okay, that's a really good answer. Thank you, Hannah. We have one last question for the architecture students. I'm interested in preservation architecture since there are a lot of heritage buildings in Vancouver. It's also a question to you. Is that taught at SALA?
Okay, we do not have a class called preservation. That class does not exist. We have 3 things that are going on. Every studio that you do, you interact with the site, and that site has a lot of already existing urban fabric, which includes heritage buildings. And almost every project, you have to, in a way, work with heritage, be it the indigenous legacy of the land, be it the existing urban fabric. This is what we understand as preservation, just in engaging with the past in one way or another. Second, We have option studios where you can choose between different topics or different approaches to design that you're interested in. And we do plan to have a preservation option studio just about that. And the third thing, and this is where most of the students satisfy their interest in preservation, is the graduation project. Every year, there are 3 or 4 projects which, in one way or another, propose a way of dealing with the past and question what do we preserve, what do we not preserve, and what preserving the past means in the context of a particular environment. So you have 3 opportunities: engaging with the existing fabric already, doing an option studio, and of course you can spend a year of your GP graduation project just working on that. And we have very successful examples of creative preservation works in our GP thesis. You can find them in circles, the repository of graduate thesis, where you will find it every year. 3 or 4 architectural graduation projects are exclusively about that, what we understand as preservation. I don't know what the students think, what their experience with something called preservation has been in studio.
For these regular studios, you actually have the ability to negotiate with your prof what you want to kind of explore based on the framework of that studio, whether it's an urban setting or even intro studio. And there have been some students that have embraced the kind of, whether it's on the site, there is a heritage element. The profs have, different profs have like different ways of allowing you to do, like pursue your interests. But I found that some students tend to be really interested in that, and I've never seen a prof deny them the opportunity to explore that. So preservation can happen, like work within preservation within a studio can happen way earlier than GP as well. Yeah.
I would love to add on, and you could also take a year off if you take it really serious. In my earlier career, I did a lot of conservation of historic parks and gardens in Europe. And if you're really into it, you can go to Europe or the Middle East or China. There are many places where they have a very long tradition to learn, or Japan to learn, or other countries. But these are the ones I know, where you can really use where they have a big understanding, long experience of historic preservation, and you can go in an office which specializes like that for a co-op for a year. If that's where the focus is. So you take that extra year, as we described before. So apart from the opportunities we as professors provide, you can do that as well.
Okay, and Daniel, I know your standpoint that architecture is design, not words, but I have to point out that we do have 4 to 5 architectural history classes as part of the program, and you can spend, and in each class you have a final paper, and you can write 5 papers just about one building in Vancouver that you like and its background, paper after paper, and study whichever project or whichever heritage building really captivates your interest. You can spend a lot, you have like a place to spend a lot of time studying it in addition to designing what you see as a preservation project.
Yeah, that's true. That's a really good point. No, we have a lot of historians also in landscape architecture. We have architecture historians and landscape architecture historians. So 2 in landscape and 4 in architecture. So we have a big group of people who can really give good advice. And our new director is a landscape architect, and run Dunbarton Oaks, which is the most important historic research facility in the United States, but globally, I would say it's one of the most important research facilities in landscape architecture about landscape preservation as well. So you definitely have the possibility. I think this is it, if I get this right. So I would like to thank all the students for helping to present with us. And I would also like to say thank you to Tara Deans and Janus for helping with questions and answering questions. And if you have any further questions, you can always approach us. Also, obviously, Tara and Janus, but Tiana and I are also available for any questions. I had a student today with a Zoom call. I'm happy to answer any additional questions, and I'm thinking.
Likewise. And thank you for your interest in our school.
And we apologize for a little technical glitch, but I hope it didn't matter too much. Thank you very much, all of you, and also our applicants for the program.